It's about to get diplomatic. So, guys, we're going to be getting back into a game that I picked up back recently, got back into the story, and I said, you know what, this game is still really good. There is a few issues and errors that I do want to discuss, but at the same time, I still really enjoy this game, and that is Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now, I've been seeing a lot of hate for this game on the internet, all right? Now, most people that I've spoken to, the people that I played this game and I've spoken to in my friend group or even outside of my friend group, they've really loved this game. They've enjoyed it to the most. Some people say it's from 8 to like 10 out of 10, right? Now, as it's been a couple years, I did notice some things and I thought, this is interesting. Because as I'm playing this game again, I didn't realize it had some issues that I didn't think that I would necessarily, that would make me dislike the game basically. And I thought, you know what? Even though I still dislike some of these parts in the game, I still enjoy it. I still really enjoyed it. I don't care what anybody has to say to me, but I've enjoyed it. But I've been seeing a lot of hate online recently. People have been making videos about this, Twitter posts, and I'm just like, where was all this? And I'm sure it was there, you know, during around the time when it came out and stuff, like the first week, first month, or whatever. But from the majority of what I saw, people really enjoyed this. You know what I mean? People still really enjoyed this game. I still enjoyed this game, running it back. But you know, there's going to be some crybabies, some whiners, even some of the grifters got involved. And it's just like, well, let's discuss this properly and let's just actually look at the story for what it is, right? So you guys remember that when this game first pretty much started, we all knew Venom was going to be in the game. We all saw the trailers of what it was and what it was going to be like. Now, a lot of people were upset because Venom wasn't in it enough and all this and that and whatever. And I'm just like, really? People are that upset Venom wasn't in it enough? And I thought Venom was in it for the amount of time that we got Venom was fine. I think the only issue I really had with Venom is him pretty much like the symbiote just pretty much disappearing and it just leaves the Carnage one in this world, right? But I'm gonna digress. Let's get back into the things that I really enjoyed about this game and let's actually focus on like some of the story aspects, gameplay aspects, everything about this game that I still enjoy. First, let's start off with the story. When I look back at the story, I feel like there was some really good moments, some really, really good moments that I thought, yeah, this is executed well. This has been done pretty well. And that is, you know, strictly straight off the bat. Craven was a big high in this game. Definitely enjoyed Craven. The voice acting, the villainy, what he was up to, what he was doing in that game was crazy. What he was doing in number 2 was crazy. And I've got to say that, you know, without him doing what he did, it wouldn't have made this game as impactful because I feel like, yeah, you can have Venom, that's fine, but I do feel like Craven did kind of, I feel like Craven stole the show because we all expected Venom to be the way he was. Yeah, we all knew Venom was going to come out big, black, white, Spidey symbol, all of that stuff. I think the only thing I really had issues with Venom is that I've not really seen him web swing at all, and that is from, and I don't know why recent game iterations of like they come around and it's just like they don't make him web swing like he did in the comics or even in the cartoons, and I'm just thinking, yo, like Venom can do that stuff, so let him have that. But overall, Craven stole the show. In terms of the main characters, like Peter, Miles, Mary Jane, Harry, Norman Osborn, I do feel like they, you know, those guys did their thing, of course, as usual. I still enjoyed listening to those characters talk and their chemistry and everything. But there were some issues. I do feel like the writing wasn't as prominent as it was in the first game. Now, from what I remember in the first game, they actually got comic book writers to write the story. But with the second game, I think Insomniac just took a big leap with themselves, and for the most part they did fine. But when it came to certain bits, like for example, I don't know, like Peter and MJ's bit when MJ was Scream, I was just kind of like, bro, Pete, like you shouldn't really be talking to her, you know, loving her up and all this and saying like you mean everything to me, but then you're trying to beat her up at the same time. I felt like in that type of moment, Peter really should have like antagonized her a lot. Peter really should have antagonized her because that is what the symbiote doesn't like that, because the symbiote is all about, you know, antagonizing Spider-Man, all this and that, right? But let's just be honest, like when Spider-Man gets under Venom's skin, he can get under his skin pretty well. So I don't know why. I honestly felt the need that they went that way with MJ and PR. I just felt like it didn't need to. They've had their moments where they're in love and they've said that they love each other and they appreciate each other. So I just don't see why they need to do it when MJ became Scream. A lot of people had problems with MJ being Scream. I didn't have a problem with MJ being Scream. I thought that was really good and interesting. It wasn't the typical way that we normally know how Scream comes into the comics, but it was still really good to see that. And then looking at how things turned out between how everything unfolded, I just feel like that MJ becoming Scream kind of makes sense for the story here. It made sense for the story. If it was anything else, I probably would have been like, nah, this doesn't make sense, get rid of it. No, but I feel like it made sense for the story and what it was. Harry was a good character. I do kind of wish that they kind of stuck with the original voice actor for Harry, because in the first game he sounds completely different to what he is now, and that's not a big issue. I just thought like the voice actor they had for Harry, that's cool, that sounds like Harry Osborn, like okay, yeah, that's dope what he's doing and stuff. And even in that you can kind of tell he was sick before we really found out about the virus that he had and whatever, right? So I think Harry was a good standout. I liked Harry being Venom. It was a switch up that a lot of us expected, and I thought it was good. I thought it was good. Again, it was good for the story. I know a lot of people wanted Eddie Brock the typical way, but we've seen so many times of Eddie Brock being Venom. It needed a change. It needed a revamp, and I felt like they kind of revamped it in a way where it worked. I definitely felt like it worked. It worked in that way. Do I feel like Spider-Man had his funny quips and stuff like that? Yes, he did. He still had it. My favorite scene from from this game is still when he's talking about the bear and the honey, and I'm just like, oh, this guy is so annoying. But it's typically Spider-Man, right?
I didn't know there were bears in these woods.
No time for jokes, Pete.
Hey, before we get down to business, there's something I have to tell you. I'm fresh out of honey.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's just typically Spider-Man. That is typically Spider-Man in a nutshell for you guys. Honestly, what more do you want? And don't get me wrong, I did say this previously as well. Comic book writers, they do need to come back into this game and actually write the story, because I do feel like they know what to do. When you've been writing a character for years, they know exactly what to do with a guy like Spider-Man, and not just him, but also Mary Jane, Harry, Norman Osborn, the villains, Miles even, and even to add on to a great aspect of the story, I feel like Miles stole the show, in my opinion. I feel like he stole the show. I feel like Miles was definitely like stood out a lot more than PR he was making. A lot of the decisions and a lot of the story arc went to Miles, and I thought, yo, they're doing a lot of good things with Miles, and I really do appreciate with that. Some people didn't like it because they feel like he still sounds kiddish and stuff, and I feel like I get where they're coming from, but I also understand it's just like, well, I'm hoping in the third game that it's going to be a couple years. It's going to be like at least we get to see Miles in his prime, because we're pretty much seeing Peter in his prime, and I feel like that was okay, for what it was. I do feel like Miles really stole the show, like when he especially towards the end when he helped Harry like just become alive again, like by just giving him CPR with his electrical powers. So I said, yo, Miles, you're really doing a lot. Not only did he turn Martin Lee into a good character and redeem himself in a way, because Martin Lee never really meant to harm anybody. He just got those powers pretty much by a freak accident thanks to Norman Osborn. So I can understand a character like him being redeemed. You know what I mean? But I do understand that some characters don't need to be redeemed. Like seeing Tombstone, I thought it was cool, but he's like, well, hold on a minute, Tombstone crushed somebody's head in the first game. So like, what are we doing here? So what's going on? So there was a lot of conflicts in the story that I felt like that didn't match with the first Spider-Man game. And I just thought, okay, I see the critiques, I see the issues, and I'm seeing the problems. I'm looking at this objectively now, right? I'm not just looking at this for the hype and everything. But yeah, overall, the story is still good. I still enjoy it. Despite the flaws, I can still enjoy it, guys. And I think that's the most important thing that people need to remember. Gameplay and feature-wise, I felt like this game did improve from the first game. There was a lot of aspects they did improve on, but there were some aspects I do feel like that because you're playing as both characters, it does make up like, okay, you got to do so much more to get the best out of both of these characters, right? And I did like the upgrading system. I feel like they improved on that. Like, you didn't just have to focus on Peter and just Miles alone. You can actually focus on both their skills and equipment and tech gear. And then, of course, even though you still upgrade them, they still have different upgrades. They still fight differently. They still swing differently. And I do want to see more improvement with the swinging, because I do feel like the swinging's good for the most part, but then it's just like, can we go faster? I feel like, Miles and Peter, they do go fast while they swing, but at the same time, it's like we can't press a button. Like, I remember in the old Spider-Man 2 game, you could press L2 or L2 or even L if you had it on GameCube, or Xbox it was LT, right? You could literally just press that back button and you could go faster. So I do think they could incorporate that, but it has to work where it kind of makes sense for the game. If they don't incorporate it, they just gotta find another way to make web swinger look a lot more appealing. Like, it's still appealing now, but I just don't want it to be repetitive. And it's the same with the fighting too, because the fighting is pretty much the same. You have the square, you have your circle, you have your triangle. Of course, if you press triangle or circle, you get your special moves. You get to do that with Peter, or you get to do it with Peter Miles doing combos together. So it's kind of interesting that way as well. I do like the fact that Rafe actually got a chance to like work with Peter in regular crimes as well, not just like for that one side mission we got where she's trying to look for Cletus Cassidy. So that was pretty cool as well. So there's aspects of the gameplay that I do feel like are really good, but there still needs to be some improvements for the third game as well. And as it is the final installment, we've got to see them come out with all the stops now, everything. Even expanding on the map would have been cool too as well. The map was expanded, but not fully how I expected it to be. I felt like it was only at least a few meters at best that was expanded in New York. And I felt like, well, I mean, there's other places in New York that we can go to, so let's expand on that. So I want to see definitely more. Of course, the city is better because obviously Spider-Man swings around a lot and stuff, so it kind of makes sense for that. But yeah, I would like to see the map just being increased a bit more as well. Let me also add as well, some of the suits were, I'm gonna say for Peter's suits, I was mostly fine with them. But then when it came to Miles' suits, I didn't like some of Miles' suits. I felt like some of Miles' suits were just like kind of plain and kind of a bit boring. They didn't really stand out. There's a couple good ones, there's more than enough good ones. But you guys know which ones I'm talking about, especially the one at the suit at the end. Oh my gosh, I don't have to wear that suit. That suit was ridiculous. I don't think Miles needs to wear that suit again. If I'm being honest, I don't think he should. Just go back to the original black and red. It made so much more sense for him. But I don't know why he's gone with that suit. I don't know why they thought it was a good suit. It had to be Adidas, bro. Like, why Adidas? Like, I thought at least Nike would have made a better suit. But come on now, Adidas, that suit was not good, man. I don't know who in the boardroom thought that was a good idea. Nah, it really wasn't a good suit. Get rid of that, please. So yeah, now that I've explained those parts, I want to get a bit more deeper into just Peter and Miles' character arc. I felt like, I know I said before I preferred Miles, and I still do. I preferred Miles' character arc in this story, but I will say, and I do think I saw some of the things that what people were talking about once playing this again, and by the time it got to the second half of the game, maybe like the third, I'll say 3/4 of the way in, Peter was nerfed. Peter did get nerfed, and it sucks because Peter realistically shouldn't really be nerfed, like, especially like when he's fighting Miles. Him and Miles, it shouldn't have been close. Miles shouldn't have got the one up on Peter like he did at times. I felt like Peter really should have knocked him out, especially in the black suit. That black suit Spider-Man is dangerous. In the comics, in the cartoons, we've seen it all, right? That black suit Spider-Man is dangerous. And they showed that for the first half of the game, but when it got to him fighting Miles, I just thought, this doesn't realistically, I felt like Peter would have knocked Miles on his ass a few times, more than enough. And obviously, Miles would have had to get like a lucky little win. And I felt like they tried to balance it out, but it didn't. But you could tell throughout the story that Miles is supposed to be the dominant spider in this type of game, right? And I get it. I understand it because of Miles' powers and stuff. He's got invisibility, he's got electricity, so that does hold weight. But Black Suit Spider-Man, it's too cold. Like, you can't go, you guys know, he can go toe to toe with anybody. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. If you guys remember the first fight he had with Kingpin, Black Suit Spider-Man would have tore up Kingpin, would have done him the most, would have cracked a few bones, and it would have been crazy, right? But with that being said, I understood what it was. It was meant to be for the story. But I do think that, like, yo, like, Peter, you couldn't just lift up the fridge. That the one that landed on you in the house when Harry was Venom. Like, bro, come on. Like, I'm just thinking about these things, and I'm just like, there's some things that are not correlating here. I know what they tried to do, and they make it seem like, because they even said Peter's not, they tried to make it seem like Peter wasn't going to be doing much of Spider-Man. So I do feel like going into the third game, we might not start off with Miles. We might not start off with Peter. We'll start off with Miles. Then we'll obviously switch into Peter when Peter needs to come in and help Miles and stuff. But I still feel like we're gonna get enough time to play both of the characters, even in the third game as well. So they just gotta make sure that the balance is there. Not saying it wasn't hit all the way in this game, but I do feel I saw how Miles was perceived to be, whereas Peter wasn't. You know what I mean? And that's okay. I get it. And this is where some of the writing kind of like conflicts itself, because he even said to Miles, like, why does the city need me when it has you, kind of thing. But Miles said straight, this city still needs two Spider-Men, so Peter's still there. I just felt like there was kind of conflicting to how Peter is. Peter should have just said, Miles, you actually did something they could have just left it with Miles. Peter's just saying, hey, Miles, you did something that I didn't think I was able to do myself. You actually did what you need to do for Martin Lee, and then that was it. Kept it pushing. Because that would have been fine too. But then seeing how they were trying to shun Peter, I was like, I don't think that's the case here. I don't think they're going to fully completely throw away Peter. They can't do that, because I don't think there would be a great story with Miles. But Miles, I don't feel like Miles is ready to be on his own yet. So I feel like after this third game, if they do continue with Miles, then yeah, he's ready to be on his own. You know what I mean? And like I said, they do need to time jump a little bit. I want it to be a couple years. I don't want it to be like a year after. I want it to at least be 2-3 years. Miles is like 20, 21. He's in his prime. He's in the swing of things. You know, you kind of see him doing what he does. Pete is still in his prime. So now Insomniac has the chance to kind of like get the character back to where it needs to be. And that's just how I feel personally. So, Marvel Spider-Man, 3+ years later, do I think it's still a good game? Yeah, I still think it's a really, really great game to play. I definitely feel like there is some flaws still, and I tried to explain myself the best that I could, but I still enjoy the game. I still think this game was a great game, and I know a lot of people were pissed that it didn't win an award at the Game Awards, because a lot of people felt like it should have won Game of the Year, and I was one of those people. I get, but then also I also feel like that even if it didn't win Game of the Year, it could have won another award for something else. There was other categories that Spider-Man got entered for, and it didn't win anything. But, you know, despite how that turned out, I still think the game is really good. I don't understand the hate. I'm trying to understand people's criticisms and stuff like that, but I do think people are being like way too critical, way too harsh, and then also you have people who are just hating on this game just to hate on it. Like, look at the grifters. There's some grifters who have just hated on this game, and it's just like, you was never gonna like the Spider-Man games anyway. Some of you don't even like the first game. But I'm being so for real. Like, even the first game gets a lot of flack, and I'm thinking, but that game was really good though. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see the discourse a couple years later of how these games kind of change or whatever. So, but other than that, hey, Spider-Man 2 is still really great. I know I gave it a 10 out of 10 back then, but if I had to look at it now objectively, I would probably drop it down to like an 8.5. It's still really good. It is still really a good game to play, honestly. Like, despite it dropped down, it's still really good. Also, they should have dropped DLC for this game. It's crazy how it never got DLC. If it got some good DLC, it probably would have gone up to a 9.5. But yeah, I still think the first game still holds weight. But that doesn't mean this second game doesn't do anything for me. And even for other people. And I hate the way the internet is nowadays, because a lot of people are just shoving their opinions down people's throats, saying, oh yeah, you have to dislike this. No, you don't. You can still enjoy it, whether people dislike it, whatever. Like, I don't really care. I'm just speaking from my experience and what I enjoyed, and I still enjoyed this game despite dropping this game down a few marks. But hey, but anyway guys, hope you liked the video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. I'm gone. Peace.